Hello and welcome to Arts and Entertainment
With Chris and Randall.
Thanksgiving edition. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. If you're listening or watching on the very day that this episode dropped, it is November 25th, 2021. It is Thanksgiving. Maybe you've just had a turkey or you're killing time waiting for the turkey to be ready and you're watching us, you're listening to us. It's amazing to think, Randall, a month from today is Christmas.
Yeah, it's coming up on us, Chris. Your namesake
Yeah,
day.
so my birthday comes up 2 days after that, for real. Oh my God, we do have so much to be thankful for this year. I have to admit, I don't want to get political. I don't want to get social. I don't want to get anything. I certainly don't want to get personal, but I'm certainly very grateful this year for Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for you, our listeners, our watchers, our viewers, our subscribers. And if you're not, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Randall, what's a good way to reach us?
Well, just check out our website, chrisandrandall.com. And there's various ways to reach out. It's a real podcast, so just subscribe to our podcast. And you can check out our Facebook page. And there you go.
Cool. Randall, I just realized we're both wearing like a turkey-colored, pilgrim-colored brown in honor of the holidays, or in honor of the fact we both love Earthstone. So, what's today's episode? So, I think we did a Thanksgiving episode a year ago, and it was a very traditional, the arts and entertainment of Thanksgiving. I'm grateful for us, but this time I thought to have a little bit of fun. If you look up turkey in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the first entry of turkey is as follows. Noun, a large North American gallinaceous, can you pronounce that word? Gallinaceous bird
What?
that is domesticated in most parts of the world.
I think it's gallinaceous.
Gallinaceous, thank you. So it's a gallinaceous bird.
I don't know what that means, but
I don't know either, but it's designed to make me look stupid. And it's also domesticated in most parts of the world. Now, the secondary definition is failure or flop, especially a theatrical production that has failed. So I love this concept of the turkey. When I was a kid, Michael Medved put out a book called The Golden Turkey Book. And it was just a collection of the worst films ever made, like Plan 9 from Outer Space and all the other Ed Wood films that had come out, plus a lot of others. And it got me to thinking, in honor of Turkey Day, what are some really bad works of popular entertainment that are just so either intentionally they realized they weren't going to be making Citizen Kane, or unintentionally they didn't realize they wouldn't be making Citizen Kane, or they wouldn't be writing a great Beatles song, or they would. What is just some really bad arts and entertainment that we just love? And why do we love these things for being so bad that they're good? So we're going to talk about a couple of things: some movie, some TV, some stand-up comedy, some singers. Randall, I'm going to get the ball rolling. Do you remember a movie? This is a proper turkey called Hackers. It came out in
Angelina Jolie
1990.
was in it, right?
That is right. And Johnny Lee Miller, fresh from Trainspotting. In fact, these 20-somethings would be playing high school teenagers in New York City. And can you guess what it involved? Just
Well,
off the title?
something about computers, I'm sure.
And hacking, yes. Hacking, and wearing roller skates and drinking sugary soda and having crazy clothing and going to raves and I mean, it is,
It's a fun movie. Computer hackers are like the coolest kids in school, right? In this movie.
Oh yeah, but you have to remember it was written in an era where our knowledge of how this stuff works, for you younger viewers, if we even have one, and if so, thank you. What was the state of the internet in 1995?
Our younger viewer, the one.
You're the one. What was? Do you remember? Can you go back
Oh, I
30
thought you were
years?
asking our one viewer.
Or can you remember Randall
I
back?
could totally remember,
It
cause yeah,
was.
I
It
went
was.
to college in 1993, and that was like my first. Well, even before then, I was exposed to the internet, but it was like AOL and Prodigy, and then '93, I saw like the real internet in college, which it was only in colleges at the time, and it was all text based, Chris. And then
Yeah.
the web was about to take off. Yeah.
So AOL becomes popular in '95, and Hollywood, really always in a rush to cash in on things, starts making these movies. They made one movie called Sneakers about a bunch of guys with Robert Redford and Brad Pitt who learn how to hack into a system. There's a movie with Sandra Bullock called The Net, who gets caught into the web. And then there's this movie by Ian Sofley, who had done a great movie called Backbeat. Did you ever see Backbeat? It
Yeah, I think I
was
have.
about
Yeah.
the Beatles back in their Berlin days. Great movie. And again, Johnny Lee Miller, fresh off of Train Spotting. Even at this point, Angelina Jolie hadn't done Girl Interrupted, but she was on her way to being like a big star and really beautiful. So you have like a lot of cool talent. Uh, I know the guy who wrote the screenplay actually did some research, meeting with actual hackers. And I'm serious. It's not like the laziest movie ever made, but I think here's the best thing. I have a comment. Peter Stack of the San Francisco Chronicle wrote, "Want a believable plot or acting? Forget it. But if you just want knockout images, unabashed eye counting, and a riveting look at complex world that seems both real and fake at the same time, Hackers is one of the most intriguing movies of the year." That said, it has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 32% with the critics and 68% with the audience. The movie had a budget of 6.5 million. It made 7.5 million at the theaters. Now, for those of you who are not into the Hollywood scene, a movie normally has to make 3 times its cost before it's considered a profit because of marketing. So, in no way, shape, or form was this a successful film. But oh man, can I tell you a little about this movie?
Yeah, go for it.
So insane. First off, I do want to say that when the movie came out, I was working in a record store. I bought the CD. If you're into electronica and club music and Britpop of the early '90s to mid '90s, oh, the CD, the first CD is great. Then they reissued a second CD, which is music from it plus music inspired. And then there's a third CD they just reissued with even more music. I mean, the score, Prodigy, Orbital, Massive Attack. It's gorgeous. But the plot is this kid played by Johnny Miller, who, when he was 11 years old, hacked into some government installation. So he was not allowed to operate a computer until his 18th birthday. So he and his mom moved to New York City. He goes to a public school, and he's 18 now, and he hooks up with the hackers at this public school in New York City, and they get involved in hacking this nefarious corporation. And the evil IT man called the Plague, played by Fisher Stevens. Do you remember Fisher Stevens?
Yes.
And his accomplishment, the head of the PR department, played by Lorraine Bracco. And in the movie, all the kids, they have rollerblades, and you know that Fisher Stevens is evil because he has a skateboard. And his evil henchman, his IT guy, is played by Penn Jillette, who almost makes the techno jargon sound a little bit more credible. But Ian Sofley, like what he does is there's no CGI. He just uses stop motion and computer images. There are dream sequences. Every character has a dream sequence. One character has a dream sequence that he's about to be arrested by the police. And when he wakes up, he's arrested by the police.
It sounds like they had a lot of time to fill. It sounds.
Yeah. There's a dream sequence where like Angelina Jolie's character dreams of Johnny Lee Miller's character in drag and wakes up horny. It's such a bonkers film. They're just random images. There's projections of code and different stuff. They crank up the film. They actually filmed this in New York City, which is shocking. They even use a real high school, which is shocking. Then they hang out in a club that's actually based in London. Now, mind you, none of this has any basis in reality because there are no clubs for 18-year-old kids in New York City. Oh, and the teenage kids, they're always smoking cigarettes. And the evil government official, who would be the evil government official who would be going after the hackers? Would it be someone from the FBI or from the NSA?
It could be either one, Chris. I don't know.
Well, you'd be wrong if you chose either. It was the Secret Service. Why? I don't know.
I don't know.
Wendell Pierce from The Wire plays the Secret Service agent who's always getting dogged by those damn hacker kids. And he has two assistants, one of whom played by Mark Anthony, who would go on to be Mr. J-Lo for a few years.
Hey, Chris, do you remember the late 90s, the extreme aesthetic where, because this movie sounds, you know what I'm talking about, where things were extreme, like there were products that were called extreme something.
It's exactly like that. Everything's to the extreme. Matthew Lillard. Do you remember Matthew Lillard from Scream?
Of course.
Oh, he's in this. He has Rasta dreads. He quotes Ginsberg. It is like one of the best Matthew Millard's "I'm so high you can't get over how high I am" performances. Yeah, you would imagine Poochie from the Simpsons was just going to kind of skateboard by. I mean, this thing. I'm deliberately trying to avoid giving you too much plot because first off, there isn't much plot. In fact, one of the biggest points of the plot is something they stole from Superman 2, or is it Superman 1? So there's also, I mean, it's just fun. It's a fun, stupid, cool, colorful looking film where both Johnny Lee Miller, Matthew Lillard, Lorraine Bracco, Fisher Stevens, and Angelina Jolie know it's not going to be a great movie. So they have the most fun you can get. It's so dude, hip Cheetos, Diet Coke, whatever 1990s is great. It really is. And things move quickly enough that even though it makes no sense, you never get bogged down. So I would strongly recommend Hackers. It's available on Amazon Prime, free, and I think it's even streaming on YouTube. So this is a really cool art house / mainstream studio. Let's get the Gen X kids kind of thing, and with really the most half-assed tech stuff you can imagine. So that was my first pick, Hackers. What's your first pick, Randall?
Well, I'm going to specifically pick the movie Death Race 2000.
Ooh, I love that movie. I saw it when I was a kid in the theater.
Yeah, it came out in 1975. I love this movie as a kid too, you know. I mean, I don't think this movie is bad, you know. I don't think, like with Hackers, I think that they were trying to make a good movie and it ended up being a crappy movie.
No, I don't think they knew what they were making on Hackers. I'm pretty sure they were high as balls when they made Hackers, because it's not even a traditional bad movie. It's like a bad movie made by stoners. But go on.
Yeah. Well, I think that Death Race 2000 is made by like the greatest all-time kitschy, campy director, who's Paul Bartel. And I know a lot of people say, "Oh no, that's what is his name? Waters."
Yeah.
But John Waters, right?
But Bartel is very much a contemporary of Waters, and their sensibility, in my opinion, just is so similar.
Well, you know, the funny thing is like Bartel, I don't know if Bartel really got the chance to make all the movies he could have made. He died very young, and I think he died in his 40s. And anyway, his taste is just when it comes to making campy movies, it's just exceptional. You know, so this movie Death Race 2000, it's an absolutely ridiculous concept. They had to remake it like a few years ago, yeah. But it was much more serious. But you know, when Paul Bartel makes this movie, this is one of his early movies. He's working for Roger Corman, and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's gonna make a completely ridiculous action movie. And it's just filled with like completely bonkers action sequences that don't make any sense. Okay. So like one of my favorites is So the concept is, there's like the concept's ridiculous. There's like a every year. It's kind of like the Purge, actually. Every year, the United States or the world government, whatever it is, has like a car race, and if you run over a pedestrian in this car race, it's a cross country race, you get points. So. So it's like, and this is way back in 1975. Obviously this inspired video games and a lot of things later on. And it's just the concept makes no sense. And there's it's a car race and they're trying to kill people, and it's like, why would people want to be out in the race when people are trying to kill them? But they are. Like, there's a great scene. I'm gonna ruin it a little bit. There's a great scene in the middle of the movie where, for some reason, this guy gets out on the road and he fights one of the drivers like the driver. The car is a bull, so he gets like this red cape and he's bullfighting the driver. And it's like, it makes no sense. Why would he do that? I mean, what's he trying to accomplish? Nothing, except for like the scene is entertaining, and that's Bartel's sensibility. It's see, I don't think he's intentionally trying to make a good movie, but he's making a very entertaining movie. It's just in terms of camp, it's like it's tops. I mean, he made another movie that's really great called Eating Raoul. So both of those movies are probably his best.
It's really funny to think about it, but I'm pretty sure Death Race 2000 was the first thing I ever saw Fred Grandy from The Love Boat in, and I definitely know it was the very first time I ever saw Sylvester Stallone.
Well, I think yes,
Sylvester Stallone, the lead.
Carradine's in it. I think Carradine's the lead. But the thing is...
David Carradine, Sylvester Stallone. And it's insane.
But see, the great thing about it is, I don't know what Bartel told the actors. Because when you watch the performances, they are super serious. Yeah. I mean, Bartel is not... See, I think a lot of... and you've seen this... I've seen this a lot over the years. A lot of people, they say... Oh, I'm going to make like a not so serious movie. It's going to be tongue in cheek. It's going to be... it's going to be silly, it's not going to take itself seriously. And then the performances don't take themselves seriously. Yeah. The movie, like within the world of the universe, it's not taking itself seriously. So it becomes boring. It doesn't really work, right? But Bartel realizes that everything's got to be serious. You got to get real actors, and they have to really act.
Well, if David Carradine is Frankenstein, Sylvester Stallone is Joe Machine Gun. Or Tabiro. I mean, they had crazy names in Hackers too, but I forgot to mention one of them is named Crash, and the other one's named Burn. And get it? Crash and Burn.
Very inventive.
I mean, to me, Death Race 2000 has two of the most fun elements of 1970s filmmaking, which prior to Star Wars was almost every single science fiction film was a dystopia, and every movie, everything. Oh my God, we were so obsessed with cars, fast cars and race cars. This is the era of Smokey and the Bandit. This is the era of the Gumball Rally.
Mad Max.
Right.
Cannonball Run.
Cannonball Run. So you take two things that are so 70s, dystopian science fiction, and then you add in race car. Then you bring in the guy from Kung Fu, and then you bring in the guy who is going to become Rocky. And this is literally, as much as I think Hackers is 1995, a hamburger on a sandwich on a bun, I would argue Death Race 2000 is the same to the 70s. It's just gorgeous.
And I've seen it. I've seen it many.
It was a remake that came out with Jason Statham.
Yeah, I've seen it many times. It's always just fun to watch. I mean, and I think it's all because of Bartel. He just knows exactly what he's trying to get here, and it's just fun.
Well, I picked a TV show, a very bizarre TV show. Let me. I don't know if you just saw the Tammy Faye movie, but and by the way, I'm not going to talk about Tammy Faye, but one of the companies that Jim Baker got launched on was the Trinity Broadcasting Network. And back in 1986, in the mid-'80s, the Trinity Broadcasting Network was they basically offered syndicated evangelical Christian programming. And in 86, this show called Fire by Night was a Christian-based youth video club and internationally syndicated television program. And it featured various actors and comedians. The program was produced by the Willie George Ministries and the Church on the move in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Uh, and it featured one of the leading young youth ministers of the day, Blaine Bartel. Spelled exactly, by the way, like Paul Bartel. I never bothered to look up if Paul Bartel and Blaine Bartel are related.
I doubt it.
People assume that they're not related, but oh my God, if they are related, then
No, it's
that's even
impossible.
better. So, Blaine Bartel was a writer, a director, a pastor, an actor, and he was like the Lorne Michaels and also the Chevy Chase and the John Belushi of Fire by Night. Fire by Night focused on many issues affecting teens and young people, from drug abuse to the eerie world of Satanism. Um, but what I liked about it is, okay, so the way it worked was it's kind of like Blaine was the host of the show, and it would be like, "Hi, welcome to Fire by Night, taped live," and he had a blonde mullet, and each episode would have a theme. He'd do a little introduction, then he'd do a skit, then he'd bring out a Christian musical guest, then he would do another skit, then he would do this thing after a musical guest, which I loved, which was a sitcom called Family First, which would be like a 20-minute sitcom, proper, three camera soundstage sitcom about a family, mother and father played by husband and wife team, John and Vicky Joe Whitty. And then they had a daughter and a son, and Blaine played the son. And then, yeah. And then his sister was played by his wife, Kathy. Because that's not creepy, right? That's not weird, is it?
That is weird. I mean,
Right? And then they had this guy named Chris Thieson, who was a very popular Christian comic of the day. So, like, I was watching an episode, and in this episode, the father's brother, who's a heavy-duty alcoholic, comes to their house, and he's drunk, and he's waiting to get his $50,000 that he made in Vegas mailed to him so that he can pay the father the money he owes him. And then the daughter goes to this club that the brother runs, and she meets a guy from her high school class who, now mind you, these kids even look older than the kids from Hackers. Like literally Blaine, the lead, has like a receding hairline. So anyway, his sister ends up dating a creepy guy who he warns is a creepy guy. And then at the end of the episode, the father kicks out his brother for being a drunkard and a whoremonger. Literally, he brings up a prostitute, and they dance. And again, I'll get to this later, but the brother does pay him on the way out the door. And then, of course, the sister realizes that the brother was right. The guy was just trying to get some action on her. And literally, the sister said, "How do you always know the right thing?" And he literally said, "Well, don't forget, I wrote the show." And the best part is, and this is really why I'm not trying to pick on evangelical Christianity. I am not trying to pick on a very good pastor. He's actually a terrible pastor. I'll get into that later. He ended up cheating on his wife. He became addicted to porn. He got kicked out of not one but two different ministries. And now he runs a porn addiction. You just a total failure and fuck up. But what I loved about the show is not a single person in this cast knew how to act, knew how to face a camera, knew how to deliver a line. I mean, if you've ever wondered what a community theater would look like if they produced a scripted TV show with no laugh track, and boy, did this show need a laugh track because you never know where the joke is. It's written with set up punchline, but no laugh track. So it's even weirder, and they don't even know. I would watch this. I just watched it again. You can watch it on YouTube. It is beautifully bad. It's like some of the worst acting, some of the most heavy-handed storylines, and just delightfully off-key low budget performances, bad makeup, bad costume, bad sets. The background actors clearly are just people wandering around who are but members of the ministry. Just it's great. It's just wonderful. It holds up. Very few things from 1986 have held up as well as Family First on Fire by Night. It was in shot. Maybe you can explain this. Did you ever hear of Beta SP?
Yeah, so before digital, that was a very popular format for news gathering and inexpensive TV production.
Yeah, it just gave it an even cheaper look. You know what I'm saying?
Soap operas too. The old soap operas used to use that a lot.
Yeah, it was great. It just looked cheap. Every element of it was so cheap that you were always afraid the set was going to fall apart. It was hard to believe, save for the fashion and the mullets, which everyone seems to have in the cast. Father, mother, doesn't matter. Everyone's got a mullet. It's just all right. What's your next pick, man? I'm still
That sounds great. I guess I'm gonna pick Andy Kaufman.
nice.
As he Andy Kaufman was like a pioneering stand-up comic in the '70s. He's dead now, and Jim Carrey made a movie about him called The Man in the Moon. But yeah, he used to do all sorts of things. Like one of his most famous performances is okay. Should I just tell his one of his most famous bits, Chris?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He's sometimes credited with inventing the Elvis impersonation. So
I could see that.
So I don't think Kaufman was bad. I think that he really challenged audiences, and so he made intentionally bad comedy, stand-up comedy, but it ended up being good. Okay, so like one of his bits was he came up with the character Foreign Man, which he played on Taxi, Latka. It was like this guy didn't speak English that well, and he was understated, and he mumbled, and he just and so back in the '70s, you'd have like an open mic night, or you'd have stand-ups that the audience didn't know who they were, and so he'd get up in front of the audience, he'd pretend to be this guy from another country who barely spoke English, and he'd try to be telling jokes that were like really bad jokes, and the audience didn't know what to make of him. They weren't laughing. They started yelling at him, telling him to get off the stage. And then he would say, "Oh, I want to do an impression for you." And the audience would just, they didn't want to see this. They were mad. He would really get him going. And then, he had this all planned out with the theater. He would, the lights would go down, and some music would start playing, and he'd like take off he'd be wearing like a work like a jumpsuit. He'd take it off, and he'd have this Elvis costume underneath, and he'd do this perfect Elvis impersonation. And he'd sing like an Elvis song.
You do Hound Dog. I remember that.
So that was one of his bits. Another bit he would do is he would get up and he would just say he'd get up and he'd be well dressed, like he's like a fine Eastern gentleman, from New York City or something, and wearing a smoking jacket or something, and he'd say, and he'd have like an affected accent. He'd say, "Oh, hello, I am here." He'd have a book. "I am here to read you one of the greatest classics of American literature, The Great Gatsby. I thought you might want a change of pace from all the comedy." And then he'd start reading The Great Gatsby. And by the way, there's a phonograph. There's a record player behind him on the stage. He didn't make any mention of it. So he starts reading The Great Gatsby, and the audience, they're like, "Where's the joke?" They're like, "What's this guy doing?" And they hate him, and they're throwing things at him, literally like their food and stuff. And then finally, at some point, he just says, "Fine, you don't want to hear The Great Gatsby. I'll play you this record." And he turns around and he puts the record on, and it picks up from exactly where he just left off in the book. It just stands there. Supposedly Lorne Michaels saw this guy, his act, and Lorne Michaels, he was one of the first guys that signed for SNL. I mean, some of the accounts I've read, he was the first, but
I remember on SNL, he again, very anti-stand-up, because he and Billy Crystal both did SNL that season, is that he just stood on stage while playing the Mighty Mouse song.
Yeah.
And then he mouths to the
Yeah,
Mighty
he had
Mouse song.
his bit with the Mighty Mouse. It was another phonograph bit. So he'd get on stage and he wouldn't say anything, and there was a phonograph there, and he put the record on, and it was the Mighty Mouse theme song from the Mighty Mouse cartoon. It was like it's a cartoon about like a superhero mouse. It's kind of a silly cartoon. It was a Saturday morning cartoon, and the song would start playing, and there's a chorus in the song that just goes, "Here I am to save the day." And he would just stand there waiting, and then when the chorus came on, he would suddenly become animated, and he would point his finger, and he'd dance, and he'd say, and he'd mouth, "Here I am to save the day," and then he'd go back to standing there silently. So he was lip syncing the song, but only the chorus. It killed. I mean, it's like saying it today. It doesn't sound that funny, but it killed back then.
The beauty of him in that young kids, you have to understand at the time, stand-up comics came in shooting a joke every 5 seconds, or they came in with their props, or they came in with their attitude, but they were all rat-a-tat-tat funny in such an obvious way. And for him to just come out and deliberately choose the opposite is a very punk statement.
Well, let me tell you,
the closest thing that comedy ever came to punk.
well, let me tell you another bit. I've read this in books. Like I've only read this in a book once, one of his biographies. And so there's this bit he used to do in the club. So the club would give him, like, they'd give a comic like a certain amount of time. Like, say they'd give a comic like 3 minutes or something.
Oh, I know this one. Yes, this is a good one.
So so he'd just go on the stage like carrying like a pack, a backpack and or a sleeping bag. He'd go on stage with a sleeping bag, and then and he'd have an alarm clock. He'd set the alarm clock to the exact amount of time when his set was supposed to end, and he'd just put it on the chair, and then he'd get in the sleeping bag and he would just sleep. And then and then when the alarm clock went off, he would just get up and leave.
I mean, this is the thing about Andy Kaufman, is that he is the worst stand-up comic, because he deliberately makes these choices that are just, they're just anti.
Well, audiences, a lot of audiences hated him. I think that's how he got off SNL. He did a bit on SNL, like I think it was halfway through the first season, where he asked, or maybe it was the second season, where he asked the audience if they wanted to keep him on the show. He wanted to do a vote. He wanted the audience to vote, to do a call-in vote or write-in or something, and say whether or not they wanted to keep Andy on the show. And Andy would abide by whatever decision the audience made. And they voted him off, and so he never was on SNL again after that.
It was just genius.
Well, I want to just say one more thing about Andy Kaufman. Like, if
Sure.
you've never heard of him, you don't know anything about him, the greatest thing I think ever was his wrestling career. So for some reason, Andy Kaufman always wanted to be a professional wrestler. And there's this great documentary about his wrestling career called I'm From Hollywood. It came out in 1989. I don't even know where you could get it. I think you can get it on like Amazon or something, but it's hilarious. So there's this thing that a lot of professional wrestlers started doing, where they stand in front of the camera before a match, and they talk about how much they're going to destroy their opponent, and there's some speculation that Andy Kaufman invented that, and you'll see it in the documentary. So Andy Kaufman created a wrestling character where he said he was the intergender champion, and he only wrestled women because because men were too tough for him. He was just a weakling, but and he was playing on the feminist movement at the time, by saying even though I'm a weak man, I can beat any woman because all men are superior to all women. And so he'd rile up, feminist-minded women in the audience, and he really riled them up. And he also had this thing where he'd say, I'm from Hollywood, I have money. He picked out a wrestler who was like a good old boy, shall we say, from the South, and he made fun of him for having bad hygiene and not being able to speak English properly and all this. And, he made fun of everybody from the South, for being uneducated and illiterate. And it was all a shtick, but and and audiences seemed to really genuinely hate him. He became a heel. in wrestling speak, and if he may have been pioneering in his approach to creating these characters in wrestling. So I'm from Hollywood. It's a great documentary by Andy Kaufman.
That is great. All right, well, let's move on to music. Now, this is a really hard one for me. I even have an honorable mention later down the line because I find that almost every song that is truly terrible was popular. So I can't say that any song that was terrible was a failure. If then a song was a failure, then you don't know it. So I'm kind of was in a bind. And I thought to myself, I'll make it easier on myself. And I'll just pick on a singer and a cover singer. And cover singers, that is where you find some truly wonderful cheese. And I wanted also to keep it contemporary because I know that we're referencing things from the 20th century and I wanted to talk about something more recent. So there is an amazing song from 1977. So much for me trying to keep it contemporary. But it's a great song by Iggy Pop called The Passenger off of his album Lust for Life. I don't know if you've heard it, but it goes, I'm the passenger, I ride and I ride. It was covered very well in the early 80s by Sushi Sue from Sushi and Susie Sue from Susie and the Banshees. You have to say it fast or you end up in trouble. And then it was covered again by Michael Hutchence from In Excess in one of the early Batman movies. Equally amazing. So there's two awesome covers. I don't know if you know the song, but it's a creepy, haunting, dark song about a man who goes around the city at night, sees its stripped back sides, and he is the passenger. That's it. You don't really know. It's very
I don't
very
think I know this. I'll have to
beautiful.
check it out.
Oh, it goes, I'm the passenger, and I ride and I ride. I ride through the city's backside. I see the stars come out of the sky. And it goes like that. It's a very haunting, beautiful. There is a video, and it's more recent, that Iggy Pop recorded in black and white of him singing it. Very haunting. So this year, David Hasselhoff. Yes, Baywatch David Hasselhoff. Yes, Knight Rider. Yes, David Hasselhoff, the man who has got a wonderful singing career apparently in Germany, according to the late Norm Macdonald, is putting out an album called, get this, Dance Your Hassle Off. And it's a collection of covered songs. And there's some amazing things. He even covers Kiss. But it is the video shot by a guy named Jens Esner of Hasselhoff covering this song. That is so disturbing. And how do you make a disturbing song more disturbing? How do you make, so it's in black and white. It looks almost exactly like the Iggy Pop video. It's in some city, maybe Germany. I don't know. Hasselhoff has got a black leather jacket and jeans, a t-shirt, and I swear to God, he looks exactly like the Terminator. Like what? I guess he would have been the third iteration of a Terminator, and certainly one that has gone to seed. His hair is very salt and pepper, but his face is like gravel. He kind of looks like, remember in Sin City? Oh, who was the one with like that really gravelly face?
I don't remember.
Anyway, he looks like Marv from Sin City. I mean, his face is like stone. He has had so much surgery and so much Botox that his face just kind of lacks any expression. He sits down either in a bus that's driving somewhere at night, or he's sitting on a stool surrounded by musicians in black and white. And he doesn't move his body much. He uses his finger every so often to point, and every so often he makes a fist. And once in a while he might open his hand. But normally all he does is make a very small tilt of his chin, left to right, left to right. You know the uncanny valley?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what it looks like. He looks like a really bad animatronic.
It sounds sad. It sounds like the late Mickey Rourke.
Well, no, it's even worse than Mickey Rourke because he really looks. I mean, Mickey Rourke is the one who played Marv, folks, but no, it's even worse because you're just not sure. Like they've obviously used a digital filter because this was recorded in 2021, so everything has to have heavy pop processing. So there's a lot of like electronica, heavy processing, vocal processing, processing on the beats. But when you add all of that to the general Android stiffness and emotional deadness, and yet he's so buff, he's been on 1,000 steroids that when he smiles, it's the creepiest smile. Now, I mean, he sings in this dead, emotional monotone, plus the filter. So, like, I am the passenger. I ride and I ride. And I have to admit, normally when people sing that song, they're trying to sound chilling, haunting. But when he sings it, it's a lot closer to like what I would imagine a sociopath would sound like someone who truly has no emotions whatsoever. And it's delightful. It's just I don't know how normally a song is bad when they make it too cheery. They change the intention, they change the arrangement. But no, this is the most forced, most plastic, most dead-eyed performance of a song I have ever seen or heard. Please go find it on YouTube. It's just called The Passenger, David Hasselhoff. Don't see it before you go to bed or you're going to have nightmares. All right.
You sound
so Randall,
traumatized, Chris. You sound like you have PTSD.
It's scary. All right. What's yours, my friend?
Well, the previous two I mentioned, Paul Bartel and Andy Kaufman, I mean, they were intentionally bad, and this last one, this guy, I mean, this is like the most pure, so bad it's good example I can ever think of, because I think that he was intentionally trying to be good. It's William Shatner, and it's anytime he sings. Back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, a lot of these celebrities on TV, actors, they tried to make some extra money by putting together like albums. They would just do cover songs or whatever. But so William Shatner was no different. And William Shatner just cut some albums. I mean, I don't know how many albums he did, but if you go to YouTube and you type in William Shatner sings,
they're all brilliant.
You'll get some great tracks. I mean, him singing Rocket Man from '78 is really good.
With a cigarette. Smokes while he sings.
Yeah, actually, that was a TV. That's a TV one. He did that
Sci-Fi Awards.
For Sci-Fi Awards. I don't know what he was
thinking. I saw it when it came out.
You did? What did people think of it at the time? I mean, I think he was.
Well, he was playing to his own people, so we were a lot nicer to him. But
that's right, because it's sci-fi, right?
Yeah, but there's one cover that you were talking about before the show.
Well,
Lucy mind-blowing.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds is hilarious. The thing about him is when he's singing. When William Shatner's doing any voiceover or singing, there's something about it where it just makes me laugh. It's just the way he over enunciates things and just his voice, and I don't know. I have no words for it, Chris. It's just like there's something about the quality of his voice. I mean, it's not good. Well, his singing's not good.
Way of speaking that he's surprised with tangerine dreams. Marshmallow sky. It's like that. Like he's doing the opposite of what Hasselhoff does. If Hasselhoff is like with tangerine dreams and marshmallow skies, whereas he's like really like I think Shatner's idea of psychedelic is just to go Spock. The same voice that he uses for Spock. Marshmallow skies.
He's great.
The girl with kaleidoscope eyes. It's always the last vowel that he just kind of starts to go.
As the years go on, he he gets in on the joke, and
that he actually did that Lucy in the Sky while he was playing Captain Kirk.
Right. Well, see those early ones where he's not in on the joke, where he's where he's trying to like cut like a straightforward cover album. I mean, those are hilarious. I mean, I listen to those and I can't help but laugh. I mean, I don't even know why. It's just he just sounds ridiculous. He just sounds ridiculous. I mean, I don't know, man. It's And then yeah, so over the years he's he's gotten in on the joke. He did a song for George Lucas when they gave George Lucas an award one year at the AFI Awards, and I mean, it's still entertaining, but it's just not as funny. It's not as funny when he's in on the joke. Okay, but the most recent thing he did, it's not singing. It's like I don't know why, but he decided to read Exodus, the Bible, with the symphony orchestra playing in the background, and he's just reading it as voiceover, and it's hilarious, Chris. I mean, you could just, if you want to listen to some Christmas music with the your Christian family, or even Jewish family, I think he's Jewish, right?
Jewish, yeah.
He's Jewish. Yeah, like he reads the Jewish parts of the book, and he's hilarious, and it's something you can sit around and listen to the whole family with,
Now, it's two weird things about him is that he's Jewish, he's my tribe, and he's Canadian.
Yeah,
Who knew?
The symphony is like Ottawa. It's just the Ottawa Symphony, I think, and I don't know. I don't know why.
He's alive and well and working.
Oh yeah.
So God loved William Shatner,
and he just went to space.
Yes, he's ubiquitous. He's culturally ubiquitous. Okay, folks. Each of us are going to give a quick honorable mention, stuff that we wanted to mention but we couldn't. So there is a song. I just think it is so bad it's good. Now, it's a pop hit. It's a #1 bestseller. It's won awards. It's a lot of people think it's a great song. So when I say it's a turkey of a song, you're now really in a weird place. It's like, dude, I love this song. How can you think this is such a dumb song? It's funny. But I am a humongous fan in the karaoke way of Wanted, Dead or Alive by which is a song you all know. I don't even have to sing it. The song kind of really does lay heavy into the 70s when there was a lot of songs about how hard it was to be a rocker on the road. The Who, Stones, the Kinks would all put out these songs about how lonely it was on the road. And then bands like the Allman Brothers and the Eagles would put out these songs like Midnight Rambler and Desperado that were like, about being a cowboy on your own. And for some weird ass reason, Reggie Sambora and John Bon Jovi decided that they needed to combine these two very old, very tired cliches into this concept of a rock star who's on the road, who's also kind of like a wanted cowboy. And like Sambora plays like a 12-string guitar, which to me is like the epitome of 1970s like prog rock. It's like so bloated, and it's so not, this is not Living on a Prayer. This is not like any of the other styles of songs by them. This is very specific, and the lyrics, like, here's some lyrics. I gotta read them. They're so bad. They're so bad. Sometimes I sleep. Sometimes it's not for days. The people I meet go their separate ways. Sometimes you tell the day by the bottle that you drink. Sometimes when you're alone, well, all you do is think, how the hell do you tell the day by the bottle that you drink? That doesn't even make sense. Or I'm a cowboy on a steel horse I ride, which I guess is his van. I'm wanted, dead or alive, wanted, dead or alive. Like, does anybody really want you guys dead? I don't really. Like, are you really that in love with your own ego that you're so wanted that they kill you? I mean, it's strange. My favorite line in the whole thing, though, is and this is where they really lean into making this a country rock song, which is, again, a really weird thing to do in this point for a hair band, is I walk these streets, a loaded 6-string on my back. Get it? Guitar, gun. I play for keeps, because I might not make it back. I've been everywhere. Still I'm standing tall. I've seen a million faces, and I've rocked them all. I mean, it's like Piano Man is, John Mulaney does this bit about how, like, in Piano Man, Billy Joel is talking about how much better he is than everyone else. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that if you've seen a million faces and rocked them all, yeah, you're absolutely saying what a badass. And I get it in rap and hip hop, comparing yourself to being a rapper gangster works. But to me, this song is so bloated, so over the top.
It was a huge hit. Like, if you're too young,
hit. huge. And please, young
This was
people.
playing everywhere, every day, all the
Yeah,
time for
yeah, yeah.
years.
And all it is just he's wanted, man, dead or alive, dead or, and it just repeats this chant, like somehow, like, oh, I better get Bon Jovi. I'm gonna put a bounty on his head because he did living on a prayer. I don't know. All right, what's your honorable mention?
I guess our honorable mention is the movie Airplane.
Oh,
It's
that's a
uh,
great choice.
it's not a good movie. It's just like it doesn't like make a lot of sense. Like the plot and characters aren't that good, but it's hilarious. Like the point of the movie is not the plot and the characters, or the story. It's the it's the jokes. And it's one of the funniest movies of all time, right?
It's funny when the movie came out, the week it came out, I think it was like 49th on the top 50 films. And then the following week it went all the way to number one because the Zucker brothers had only done like Kentucky Fried Movie. And they were like guys who just made these small, low budget cult films out of Madison, Wisconsin. And this was like their big Hollywood debut. And
Well, the great thing about Airplane is I think that everything suffers to make the joke funny, which is great. And it takes away from the story and characters, but you don't care about that stuff. And this isn't a Woody
Leslie
Allen
Nielsen,
movie.
Leslie Nielsen was a guy who was at this beginning to parody his own past. This was a period in time where they made movies about airplane disasters like Airplane and I'm sorry, like Airport 2000 or Airport 77. Like there were a whole series of these disaster movies and plane disaster movies and the Poseidon Adventure on a boat. So, it just had all of the wooden qualities that we've come to associate with that kind of filmmaking. They always say a genre is about to die when the parody comes out. And I do believe that if Airport 1970 is what started disaster films, then Airplane 1980 is put it in the ground.
Well, there are still disaster films after Airplane, but yeah, I mean, not as many. I mean, yeah, there was this era of the disaster film, like I don't know, I can't think of the titles now, but there were a lot of them, right?
Yeah, Quinn Martin was a big producer of them, and
The
yeah,
Poseidon Adventure was one of them.
Towering
right?
Inferno.
Towering Inferno. Um, yeah, and Airplane is kind of like a Mad Magazine movie parody come to life, which is the closest I think any movie's ever gotten to a Mad Magazine movie parody.
And it does it by not being good, which is the best part. It's one of the most successful parodies because it knows in order for it to be funny, it kind of has to suck.
Yeah, and the performers, they are playing all their characters with one note. They're every character in the movie is like a one joke character, and they just stay inside of that joke the whole movie, and it works. I mean,
It works because it's so farcical. It's so over the top. It's so to the extreme. And the genre it's making fun of was so earnest and so over the top in its earnestness that just the simple flip is what makes it so clever. I don't know, honestly, if someone younger today watching the movie is going to really get just how similar in tone and manner it was to the thing it was making fun of. But it nailed it, and it nailed it hard.
Well, when I was a kid, I had no idea. Like, I hadn't seen these disaster movies, and I still loved Airplane. So,
Well, thank you so much, folks. Those were some of our movies or songs or TV shows that were just or stand-ups that were just so bad. You almost just can't help but love it for being so bad. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving or you're about to have the cranberry sauce or the gravy or hopefully you have a nice pie or two. Don't eat too much or eat as much as you like at Thanksgiving. All right, I'm Chris.
I'm Randall.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye.